Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Friday highlight, which is going to be the Tier 5 USS Texas. Essentially a clone of her sister ship, the New York, with some slight differences, but perhaps the biggest difference would be the comparison of AA strength, which Texas was also historically known for, I think, after she had a retrofit. But I have two battles for you today. These happened earlier this morning. And basically, one, it's Friday, early morning hours for NA, so means not as many players. So we also lose out on players, not having a full 12v12 lineup. And in both battles, we also get up-tiered. So Tier 5 against Tier 7. So with that being said, know that both these games aren't going to be high damage, but what you will see is trying to make decisions of winning the battle, as it were. Also, in addition to that, what I like about mid-tier play, before we kind of break Texas down, is that it's pretty good space if you struggle playing battleships at like high tier. Just come down to tier 4, 5, 6 and kind of wrap your mind around playing battleships. I would say like 4 and 5 to get the fundamentals down, because ultimately it just really helps out as you ascend to higher tiers. So that being said, I'm running William Halsey here on Texas. Because they're not making many ships, we're going to be in and out of the action a lot. So I'll be cutting out some instances, but not a ton here, because a lot of what you're going to see here is talking about positioning. Like one of the perhaps weaknesses with the Texas is that you don't have this absurd long-range main battery. Your main battery range is 16.42. So then it takes something like the spotter plane to get more range, where we can bloom out what is it, to 19.7. But then honestly, Texas at long range sucks in terms of landing shots. As you saw there, we dropped high and low in terms of the vertical dispersion on that Marblehead, and you're going to see that in both battles. So really there's no sense, in my opinion, to build out in the range on the third slot. Realistically, you want to be playing like, let's say like 16 and under, like maybe ideally 10 to 14, something like that is what I would honestly say. Now, one of the downsides with Texas is, of course, she doesn't have the greatest concealment either. It's a 13.99 or 14 to be exact. So Brisk is probably not so much of a great option to run on Texas here, so I don't. So that's why I took a different build layout here. All said and done, in the first slot I'm actually running the what do you call it, the special upgrade, the damage control party mod 1, and then with the commander I have a 30.8 second action time on the damage control party versus just a 20-second action time. So you know, if you're familiar with playing New York, it's essentially what you get when you play the Texas. As I said, the biggest difference here, which we didn't have any CVs either of these two games, is her AA strength is much greater than the New York. Granted, it doesn't, at first glance, it doesn't look like it because you don't have long range AA. You only have medium and short range, but the damage per second is incredible. So you were likely not going to stop the first strike of a CV because of not having that perhaps longer range AA to deter and counter the first strike. But at tier 5 and tier 6 among all battleships, she has the strongest AA, and it's only until you get to tier 7 where her AA becomes weaker. So that's a struggle. You do have to show a good amount of broadside as well to get all of her 10 guns off. They're 10 356mm main battery guns. You know, here we get to utilize the island to our advantage, so we got to fire dark, as we had to step in here with the Molotov and picking up a cap. And this is where, like, in an instance, like, normally you should be having 12v12 games, ideally. Depends on time of day, and also, you know, we're getting into summer now. So we just have a not very target-rich environment, and basically the enemy team just gave up this flank and instead focused B and C. So when they give up map control, then we're going to be able to take advantage of that ultimately here. Here I'm figuring out that I'm detected by a destroyer, and that's where Texas will struggle. Because she's not super maneuverable. It's not like she has this built-in propulsion. So it does leave you vulnerable to destroyers that decide to YOLO you. And here I'm just trying to figure out to see if I can get any AA. There's still 2 DDs on the board. It's a Hotnik and was it an Akatsuki? I don't remember off the top of my head now. So I really don't know which of the 2 directions he's at. I'm assuming he's off to the left, not to the right. So as a precaution, because if, I'm playing around this island, I'm pushing up on it, we're going to go ahead and utilize our heal. We do get 5 heals fully when we build for it, and taking the emergency repair expert. And that's also gives us a 10% longer action time on the heal and our damage control party. So because I don't know where the destroyer's at, I'm going to go ahead and pop my heal here. As a preventive measure, and then that's the Hotnik shows up. Now the Hotnik has 4.5 kilometer torpedoes. He has 12 of them, and they hit decently hard. So as much as I maybe want to turn out and get all my guns on the Hotnik, really he smoked up, which tells me he already dumped his torpedoes. So we just need to stay bow in. One of the perks of the Texas over the New York is that you have a stronger torpedo protection. It's a 31% reduction versus New York's 28%, which isn't massive, but at least it's a little bit of a step up here. So that's helpful. Now, the goal here when you find yourself in these type of situations is like the max conceal, I think, on Hotnik is was it 5.7 or something like that. So we need to disengage. Hotnik does have a decent torpedo reload time. Since we're running Halsey, we have an enhanced turret traverse, the grease the gears, and also the gun feeder skill. So we can have a roughly, I think it's with our with our health right now, maybe it's around a 12-second switching time. On paper, well, not just on paper, but reality-wise, the New York has a stronger armor pierce AP damage per minute and high explosive damage per minute than what Texas has, because on Texas your reload time is 34.28 seconds without taking intermission into account, and I think on New York it's around 30. So per minute, you get more salvos off with New York than you do get on Texas. So there's kind of these trade-offs where it's in one sense, you can see some of the more strengths of Texas, but on the other hand, there are instances where it's oh, I think I might want to play a New York over the Texas just to have a faster reload time and a longer main battery range, I'm pretty sure. Here, I'm not really afraid to go and turn out broadside because I'm I've estimated the torps will run out of steam because of only 4.5. So what we do here is we put ourselves in a scenario where we're going to let our team focus Bravo and C, and we're going to move up a little bit further, and we're just going to prevent the Hotnik from trying to take A. He's never going to be able to torpedo us because of his 5.7 versus his 4.5 kilometer. 5.7 conceal, 4.5 kilometer torps. So we're just going to be playing this holding measure and just keeping him off A. And we're just going to let our team keep working over the enemy team because we don't want to just abandon this cap if we can help it. So we're just going to be playing defensively here. So either he's gone behind that island or he's gone over behind the island here just to the left of where I'm aiming. Otherwise, in terms of consumable layout, the perk also Texas gets over New York is that you do get a defensive AA fire consumable, thus bolstering your AA defenses. So that will make you more of a comfortable battleship to play. If you go something like Agincourt, HMS Agincourt, she's strong secondaries, but I don't think she has any AA, if I recall correctly. So then, you see tier 4, tier 6 CVs that will focus Agincourt players down. Or in Texas, you're gonna be really strong against tier 4 CVs, and tier 6 CVs are gonna have a difficult time with you compared to other battleships in the game. So you kind of focus on, you have a little bit more torpedo belt protection. You've got stronger AA than New York. And, you know, that's, do I say that's about it outside of having, I think, I'm pretty sure Texas has a shorter main battle range than New York, but I could be wrong on that. You have a worse, I think, turning circle radius, a worse rudder shift on Texas compared to New York, and then just a longer reload time on Texas than New York. And the almost identical, same Sigma, it's what, 1.9? And I think, if I recall correctly, it was only 2 meter difference on what something like the horizontal or vertical dispersion that New York was slightly better on. So, you know, it's Ohotnik has moved off to B, so, you know, we've held this cap, so I'm just going to let the Fiji know and give him some information in chat here. So it's really not, I don't think Texas is an overpowered battleship. You know, I'm really comfortable playing New York, so I can just play a couple games with Texas to wrap my head around. You know, the thing, of course, we'd want to see here is seeing Texas's AA in action, ultimately all said and done. Since it is one of the strengths, highlights of the ship. When you look at the Wilds Wiki article, you know, there's definitely information that's outdated there now. That's not so great. I guess one of the other things is like Texas is a 20.5 kilometer top speed, where New York is a 21. But I'm running Sierra Mike in this game, so you probably may have seen a higher top speed if you're paying attention to that at the start of the game. And then here we're going to be supporting our Blisk. It's kind of a hot mess sometimes depending on what kind of destroyer players, if you get a competent one or not so great one. You know, here I'm not happy because, you know, Synap has 406s, so I mean, he can easily do damage and over penetrating our armor scheme. But I have loaded the high explosive because ultimately here in this scenario, you know, we want to support our destroyer player with the cap, right? The last game you saw us at the beginning, we shot at the destroyer. You know, certainly I could pop my spotter plane and shoot the Nuremberg or shoot the Synap, but I want to give my Blisk, my destroyer player, a leg up as much as possible. If I can help him have a higher hit point advantage over the Z31 that's here, then that's great. I mean, it's what's not so great is that the Synap spawned with the Nuremberg and the Z31, and so like we have a Fiji here who's actually going to do pretty good for himself, but the Fiji didn't spawn with us on our flank, right? So he's having to work over, so the Blisk is going to have a harder time, where he's probably going to lose out on more of a trade, where, you know, we're spraying and praying, if you will, with Texas, even though we're firing at like 10 to 12 kilometers here against the Z31. We also have to be mindful that, as you're going to see later, Z31 has, I think he has a 10 kilometer torp range, so I have to be mindful of that here as well. And then we see the Nuremberg coming in here, which I'm going to go ahead and switch to Nuremberg. And I should have pulled my shot back a little bit more, because the Nuremberg was actually slowing down. I think he wants to be concealed in the smoke screen here. But I'm going to go and switch to the armor piercing. I'm hoping the Blisk kind of hangs in there a bit longer, if at all possible, for me to get a decent salvo off, because he's just kind of, he's running it down, if you will, out in the open, which isn't so good. The other reason why I've moved more to the left here is I want to avoid the Synapse 406s, so I can kind of isolate the engagement here. Granted, our Fiji player has to be mindful of Synap if Synap decides to circle back around. That will definitely be a challenge. Nuremberg's still going slow. He's reversing back, so I feel good about that salvo. And we do get the Citadels. The armor piercing with these guns, all said and done, your max damage is 9,800 with a high explosive. It's, come here. Why is it not showing up? 4,750 with a 30% chance of causing a fire. Which is not like a super high chance of causing fire. I mean, there's other battleships that play the main battery setting fire rolls better than Texas, but the 9,800 is nice. You know, when you do get effective salvos, I mean, you will crush the tier 5 light cruisers, heavy cruisers, or maybe you get a nice broadside battleship. You'll also do a lot of damage to them, catching them up broadside. But it really comes down to whether Texas is, when you fire her dispersion ellipse, it's very trollish. That you can have, there we had 2 citadels out of a broadside Nuremberg. And that was because we played within this, like, let's say 10-kilometer range to get her main battery more accurate. Where if we're firing even further back, like, your vertical dispersion and just overall dispersion just gets worse. So ideally, the quote-unquote closer you can get, the better off you are. Here we see the Z31s come back into the cap here at C. I'm trying to give some advice to my Fiji player, and I end up seeing that the send-up salvo comes from over the island there, so I say, never mind, he's there. But I need to switch back to high explosive probably, just because the Z31 is out here in the smoke. I'm trying to play this role. Like, one of the frustrating things you see with a lot of Battleship players is they just abandon the flank, and they leave their destroyer and cruiser players alone to deal with the pressure that's coming from that same flank. And so here I'm trying to play this role where I can help the Fiji, I can assist him out here in the open. Now, if the send-up is going to push in, if the Z31 is going to push in, I can help him out. However, the disadvantage here is I don't have a destroyer spotting for me with the torpedoes. And then I was trying to remember, what's the torp range on Z31? Which I do look here in just a moment, and it's the 10 kilometers, so I realize that I'm probably vulnerable to Z31. So if I'm the Z31, I'm going to be torping the idle Texas in the back, as we take it almost 10k salvo there. So effectively, I need to move. I can't keep sitting here as much as I want to keep sitting here. There's nothing preventing the send-up from just kind of charging in. And there's also this, I think it's a Gambia that's to the back of the Fiji. So I decide that I'm going to go ahead and drop back, and then I'm going to try to shoot the the Gambia. But if I do get to see Z31 again, I do want to shoot him as well. So again, he wasn't going as fast as I thought he was, and now he goes broadside, and I still had the one turret that was briefly incapacitated. And I'm like, ooh, that looks like some tighter dispersion, and vertical above and below. Like, you get a lot of salvos with Texas that troll you. They don't hit in the middle, they'll hit below the target and above the target. So it's just really frustrating, all said and done. So I'm trying to communicate with my teammates and explaining like what I'm doing, especially with the Fiji. So I just tell them I had to move because of the torps. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch back to the armor piercing, as I'm going to start fishing for where the Gambia's at. And try to see if I can't lob a salvo over this island, because it looks like the Gambia's moving more towards 7, the 8 line. So I'm using my depth charge planes, like, okay, there was smoke there. I can be ready with my spotter plane as well to help me have an even better salvo. And I drop the depth charges to see where send-up is, and then Fiji picks up the send-up right off the get-go. Now the fun thing here is, like, the send-up just keeps over-penetrating the Fiji without getting any citadels, so Fiji's able to going to end up charging in here. We see the Gambia. I'm like, okay, he's slowing down, looks like he's turning out, and that's when our Colorado smokes him with his 406s. It doesn't matter how the Gambia angled, he was just going to eat crap as long as the AP shells landed. And we switch back to our depth charge planes to help, or to see what's going on here with the Fiji. So he gets his 3 torps into send-up, and then he's going to end up taking on the Z31 here. And he's going to sidestep all the Z31's torps, which is good for him. I think the Z31 torps aren't very fast. And so this is kind of when I'm like, if I wishing that I was on the 910 line, that I could better assist the Fiji. But again, like, I had to move out of the way to avoid the torps, and I thought I would come assist him with the Gambia. But our teammates were on top of it, which is great, because the Scharnhorst 43 is just off in La La Land doing his own thing. But we do lose the Fiji here to the send-up. And so what I'm going to do is switch to high explosive, because the send-up is going to be sitting bow in on the channel. Send-up has his fighter planes up, so he knows we're coming. So I had turned my AA off in case he started throwing depth charge planes over, that he wouldn't know that I was coming. But the rest of our team is like, we're going to come help with the dying send-up, basically. Which, I mean, sure, why not? We get rid of him, then we can turn our attention to the Scharnhorst 43. So all I really had to do with these 356s with the high explosive will penetrate 59mm, but I can't remember the bow armor layout on the Synap. So I'm going to debate whether I shoot him in the bow to try to attempt to overmatch his armor with the 356, or if I'm just going to shoot him higher up in superstructure, because he does eat a bit of damage here. And I'm trying to pay attention to his intervals when he's firing, because he has I think over a 30-second reload time. So he's going to pop another salvo off here. So then that just makes it like really easy for me to just kind of be as angled as I am, where he's not going to be able to do anything about it, and I'm just going to throw the salvo up into his upper superstructure. And we took some shells on the backside of the island, so we just wanted to get rid of him and get the kill. So our team would focus back to the Scharnhorst 43, who's eventually made his way out of A into the cap. Now I don't understand the Scharnhorst 43's thinking here, because Scharnhorst 43 is a secondary brawler with torpedoes that reload like 45 seconds. So he should just be running it down on the Bayern in Colorado. But I mean, it sucks for him because I mean, all 4 battleships are still alive, no matter how he cuts it here. But he just decides to go back behind the island here in B and just sit and heal and DCP, and doesn't really ultimately get anything done as a result, because Scharnhorst 43 is like, it does best when you're brawling and you're pushing in and getting some of that torpedo, that secondary action, versus just like, what's the point of leaving A if all you're going to do is come and sit behind an island? Like, yes, there's a lot of incoming fire, you're going to die, but like, try to go out flashy and take some people with you, perhaps all said and done. So I'm just checking out what's going on here. So, you know, I just got Texas recently. I can probably put like a clip in the top left corner here or something. I got her from the naval community, tier 5 ship containers. I think I have all the tier 5 ships now that come out of those containers. So, you know, I've been interesting. Texas probably had like a greater, probably was better back in the day. Like, I think the meta would probably be more kind to her. Like, I feel for any Texas player, New York player who runs into tier 6 submarines. Like, there's really nothing you can do, which is why we've took the damage control party mod 1 to have a longer action time on our damage control party. So it just sucks. So again, it's a low damage game, but we've just basically been playing for wins. We get 3 kills, but, you know, ultimately we didn't do a lot of the damage except to that Nuremberg. And some defended ribbons as well. But nothing flashy in either of these 2 games. It just sucks when you get, you know, this was like a 7 versus 7. As islands, when you don't have as many ships to play against, like, it sucks for battleships, because it's just like, it's just a less target-rich environment. So you just, the games are very dull, but at the same time, like, you got to just see some, like, kind of just simple battleship fundamental positioning and awareness, if you will. I guess I get the highlight out of this video. And that's probably the greatest thing that came out of these 2 videos, because they're not amazing games, but we tried to be supporting our team as needed. All said and done. So Texas, I don't remember how much she is for doubloons in the armory. I mean, historical value, the ship's has a rich history. You know, now in the game, I really don't know if, like, Texas, I'd have to just keep, I mean, I don't really like coming down to tier 5 playing much anymore, because I just feel like you constantly get up tiered, because it just seems to be that's how it's going as of late with the meta of World of Warships. But of course, when you're playing more really early morning in a time, and we're getting into summer, there's just less players around. But I mean, as a whole, like, I've noticed that trend's been increasing no matter what time of year or what time of day. You just end up being fodder for more higher tier players, because then you'll feel, you know, when a King George goes up against a Texas or New York, like, it's not thrilling, it's not exciting. Or Scharnhorst 43, it's like, if you're playing Scharnhorst 43 as a brawling player, like, you just become, you know, dinner for a lot of the other ships in the game, when there's very little you can do about it. And, you know, now having some Marines at tier 6 and stuff like that. So I think Texas probably was shined brighter a couple of years ago. Now maybe not so much, but That being said, tomorrow we'll do an upgrade commander build video on Texas. I've done a history with Flimsy video on Texas. I'll tag here at the end if you want to know more of the history about the Texas. Pretty cool stuff. That being said, if you like this video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. And until next time, take care.